Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hello to all my returning subscribers. Today I just want to do a quick movie review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I really like the first one, so before we continue, I hope, it's all spoilers. If you haven't watched the movie, definitely check it out beforehand, or if you don't want if you're okay with spoilers, continue watching. So this one, it really touches on an idea. It was really great. In my opinion, a little too long for my liking, but I understand why they made it a little longer. It makes sense on the aspect of trying to build up, because people I don't think realize that into this film, the sequel was always going to be split into two movies. That was the rumor that they put in like 2 years ago and confirmed it, that it was going to be split. So the ending part, a lot of people, if you didn't read about it, will go, oh wait, why is it ending like that? But overall, I think it was good. The story was very in-depth. It really gave good backstory. It shows Miles Morales' development as Spider-Man on the like a crime fighting, but also just a growing up, as I believe he's a sophomore, they indicate in the movie. So it shows that he's just going through those growing pains still, trying to figure out his relationships with his families and all that. Then it touches on the aspect, they go into stories of like Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, continues to spread story, go in depth about Gwen and her like her relationship, and it just talks about expanding on that multiverse aspect, which was great. And then it gets to the point where they touch into the movie and they show every kind of Spider-Man. This can be the Spider-Man from Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man of Andrew Garfield. It shows cuts from them, which makes sense that Sony made those movies. But they will, of course, Spider-Man. But also it touched on video games. So the ones there, some of the old 90s, 2000s cartoons, the Spider-Mans were there. They were all in this like big setting. So the story is pretty much Spider-Man. There's a dimension is like breaking. They're trying to stop it from happening. Miguel O'Hara is the one who's trying to save it and make sure like these dimensions aren't breaking, because they're crossing in each other's, just pretty much like Disney's like the Marvel universe, what they were trying to describe. But he's trying to make sure that it doesn't break apart and on there. And then Gwen visits Miguel, and then on that aspect, she just wants to see him. But in reality, what was it called, Miles. She visits Miles, and Miles was never like he gets tricked to like follows Gwen back to Spider-Man, Miguel's main universe. And then they just tell a story. They bring back the old Peter who trained him and mentored, and pretty much they're trying to tell him that his dad is supposed to die. The dad's supposed to become a captain, and their indication that he's supposed to die, and pretty much it's supposed to happen. There's nothing he can do. Of course, Miles does not accept that and wants to stop it. And then they get in a fight. He fights all these different Spider-Mans, from like a T-Rex, a cowboy one, and then of course the other cartoon ones, the rock one, the pop rock one, and then there's the one that like an Indian one, which is great. And then pretty much they're fighting, and then Miguel gets to him, Spider-Man 2099, and pretty much tells him that the spider was that bit Miles in the first movie was never supposed to be part of their world, and his world was supposed to, that came from a spider from a different world. And pretty much he tells him he was never supposed to be Spider-Man, and the Peter Parker of his world was supposed to be alive, Miles Morales is. There's this enemy called Spot, and pretty much he's touched on like the one in the 90s animated, where he can like travel between dimensions and make these holes where he can go like hop through and everything. And pretty much Spider-Man doesn't think he's Miles Morales thinks he's worthy as a lower tier villain, so he gets upset, and he just continues to get stronger, and he expands, and he blames Miles because he was the one who created that spider. And then he pretty much, his backstory is like he got into an accident where he became Spot, and he lost his face and stuff, lost all his family and friends. So I think that's a good story. And then like he becomes a threat because it builds up. Like he's funny in the beginning, and later on he becomes more aggressive, very more dangerous, so it builds up. And then so pretty much they want to keep Miles in their universe and let what happens to his dad happens. Miles doesn't want to accept that, so he escapes, gets back, and he thinks he goes back to his dimension, but in reality he doesn't. So this is the turnoff. He goes actually to the one location where Miguel was talking about, where there is no Spider-Man. He goes to the universe that has no Spider-Man. It's pretty lawless and stuff. And he thinks, so he's captured, he sees his uncle, you know, in the first one he's dead, but in this universe he's alive. And he thinks he gets knocked out. And he thinks his uncle's a Prowler, tries to convince him he's not the Prowler. But, and then they're like, it's Miguel, Miles, that dimension's Miles is the Prowler. So that's like pretty much where it ends on that story aspect. But then Gwen like has a change of heart. She feels bad that, you know, her and the Peter who trained Miles decide to, you know, go save him. Like she decides to, you know, she has a change of heart. She feels bad. She tricked him. So she goes to save him and she recruits people. She recruits the Spider-Man from India. And she also recruits Spider-Man, the punk rock one. And she brings some of the older ones from the first one. So the girl who has the robot spider, Spider-Ham, and Spider-Noir. And this is where a lot of people who don't understand got kind of frustrated or they were surprised, is that's where it cuts off. That's where the movie cuts off. And pretty much it just is really, I think, a good build up to the next one, which is going to be exciting. And people, if they had paid, like, done their research, they were always going to do 2-part movie. So I'm sorry if this is only my second review, and it's been a while since I did one of a movie, so maybe I went too much into the storyline. That's why I put the spoiler in the beginning. Overall, a good movie. I felt a little too long, but I really liked the development, the backstories of each characters, and I think it really pushed Miles and showed like he's no longer that beginner one. I think he's been Spider-Man for a little over a year, so he has that experience more, and he's still growing, of course, as like I said, he's in still high school, but he's a little more, but then realizing those traumas and stuff. But he is like going against the grain of like what they're saying is like you have to accept what's happening, and you know what it is really kind of almost planned out is going to happen, and you have to let it happen. And Miles Morales goes, no, that's not what happens. And I think that's where I definitely think I slightly like the first one still, because I feel like origin stories are awesome, but this lives up to the sequel. Like as a sequel, it lives up. And I think if they decide to make it into a trilogy, which they are, I mean, I don't know how many more movies they're thinking to make after this. I think it's gonna be a good standalone trilogy. It's gonna be great. The animation was amazing. It was a different game changer. I saw like it. So if I had to grade it, I think it's been averaging a little over 90% in like ratings on reviews, and I agree with it. It is really good. I like the development of the characters of not only Miles Morales but Miguel, Gwen, that touch on Spider-Man, the original, his mentor. His mentor has a baby now with MJ, which is great. I think that comes full circle, but just its idea of it being almost like a fan service of touching, using all those Spider-Mans across the different multiverses. They even touched on Spider-Man from Disney. They acknowledged, like, Miguel goes, yeah, don't even get me talking about that one nerdy Spider-Man, which is Tom Holland, the Disney version, and Doctor Strange. So it was a nice nod. It showed other Spider-Mans, not only like I said, but it from the games, the TV shows. It was an awesome fan service, but they blended it so well with the story. It just doesn't feel like it was overdone. It's like, we understand, if you are a big Spider-Man fan, you're gonna understand the different, you know, video games, the movies, the TV shows, and you're gonna acknowledge that. So if I had to give it a rating, I would give it like a 9.0 to like 9.5. I can't really, maybe like a 9.2, I guess. It was good. A little too long for me, like I said, but everyone to their own. So I hope you like this, and definitely go watch it. AMC's Bucket. But the other one with Gwen. Please give me some feedback on these videos, as it is my only time I did a review, and I'll definitely try to do better. Thank you. Take care and God bless.